Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we are talking about Army of the Dead. We feel blessed. We've got two Zack Snyder films in a year with the Snyder Cut. Now we've got this one and a kind of a return to form in many ways for Zack Snyder in a way. You know, he's been dabbling with DC for years and years now, and this is a kind of return to form for him with the zombie films. But before we get into this one, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, guys. So obviously this one is out on Netflix now. I'm not saying we're going to do spoilers, but we may dip into some. So if you have seen it today, we're going to cover maybe some of those bigger points. We'll give a heads-up warning for those of you that haven't, but we want to know your thoughts on this. As you said, it's a new Snyder film. He's got a very loyal fan base. And I think this is one that a lot of people may be more excited for, as in ones that aren't DC fans, neutral film fans, maybe seeing him as a return to the genre. So let us know your thoughts. If you do like this video, hit that subscribe button. I want to thank everyone. We crossed the 2,000 subscribers this week. Yeah. So what a way to celebrate it with a new Zack Snyder film. And for those of you that don't follow us on our socials, obviously I'm going to bring them up on the screen now because we've got a lot of videos coming up. I'm not joking. There's a lot of videos coming out in the next week or so, and we'll probably mention them at the end. But the best way to find out about our content, if you don't stay around to the end, is on Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy, letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, and we have a link to our TeePublic store in the description below. But no, we're here for Army of the Dead. How do we even start with this? Let's talk about the genre, right? Because me and you were chatting before. I don't think between us or between the channel we've ever covered zombie films, new releases, maybe even older films. I'm sure it's been brought up in conversation. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the genre. So
I was trying to rack my brain as well, and I was thinking, like, did we talk about Zombieland 2? And I think we were going to do a review, and for whatever reason we didn't end up doing one. And other than that, I think maybe passing mentions of like 28 Days Later, maybe in a Battle of the Brackets somewhere. I don't know, I can't remember it myself, but zombies are just everywhere. To me, it's a genre that's just been done to death. So when I heard that, you know, Zack Snyder was doing another zombie film, and especially when you have a title like Army of the Dead, there are so many of the dead zombie films out there. You know, you've got like the old Romero ones, Dawn of the Dead, which Zack Snyder also did, which is, you know, when I mentioned it's a return to form, I believe that was his first film. And that was, you know, a remake in and of itself. This isn't like a sequel to that or anything like that. It is its own brand new thing, Army of the Dead. But the one thing that I was kind of looking forward to with this film was that, thank God, we've got Zack Snyder away from DC. You know, like, his strive to get his cut out there. It's finally out there. The DC fanboys are satiated for at least a little while until they want a sequel to it. And I think, to be honest, I get the impression that Zack Snyder's glad to be away from it as well. After, you know, all the set to with Warner Brothers, he can make a nice sort of like smaller scale film, sort of go back to his roots and rediscover himself. And I really appreciated that about the film. But for me, I do find zombies, it's very difficult to get it right, or to get it entertaining, for me at least, because I just think it's a genre where, you name it, it's been done. And, you know, you have a moment where someone gets bitten and they're turning, and it's like a family member or something. It's like, you know, you're going to have to shoot me. And it's like, no, I don't want to shoot you. It's all the cliches, and it's just fast moving zombies, slow moving zombies. Everything has been done. So with that being said, that was kind of my thoughts going into this, that this is just going to be another zombie film, really not offering anything new to the table. I didn't know it was going to be 2.5 hours long, though. I will say that before going into this one, and I guess we can open with Carl's opening comment right here. Even though I enjoyed the movie, Zack Snyder needs to learn the word editing. A zombie heist film does not need to be 2.5 hours long. I couldn't have said it better myself. And George, I believe that I almost used those exact words when I was talking about this film earlier.
Yeah, I've just had a thought in my head. I wonder if the reason this is 2.5 hours long is because it'd be 4 hours if you use slow-mo.
Not much in this film, actually.
That's
we did
why,
say
that's
that.
why it's only
was
2.5 hours. No, I'm with you. Zombie films are fascinating because obviously I'm not big on horror, not because I get scared. You know, I do with Jaws, not much else. You've witnessed it. I think that's what's going to be on my go-to record, and I didn't fear a thing, unlike Tate. And with that one, that was a fun trip. We spoke about before, but my problem with horror, and zombies are probably a big part of that, actually, is, as you said, it's cliches, repetitive, hit the same. Loads of my friends watch Walking Dead, and when it was at its peak, I'd say 2013, 14, I watched the pilot and I was like, I've seen this. And my best friends were in a group chat, so I'd see spoilers anyway. So I didn't have a reason to watch it because I already knew what was going to happen. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of Shaun of the Dead. I love Edgar Wright films, but I've never liked Shaun of the Dead. I've not seen Evil Dead, which I'll get to before Doctor Strange for Raimi reasons, and I've not seen the Cesar Romano ones. I've not seen many. I think the last zombie film I saw was the Adam Driver Bill Murray comedy, The Dead Don't Die, which was very weird, very, very weird, and it's meant to be a piss take of all of it. It's very self-aware that it's a zombie film, which I really enjoyed, but it's a genre that I think you're right. If new ones come out, it's going to say, what are you doing differently? And to be fair, I will say this, Zack Snyder, though I'm not a big fan of Justice League or BVS, I love Man of Steel, love 300, really enjoyed Watchmen. I do like him as a filmmaker, and I wanted to see him exit that comic world for a while. I've always said, I'd like to see him do something that's not DC. This is his first non-comic book film in 10 years. And if you want to get that much further back, you could argue, well, it's not an argument, it's a fact. 300 is based off a graphic novel. Watchmen is obviously a graphic novel. Dawn of the Dead is a remake. I don't know if Sucker Punch has a history or the Owl film you always talk about, but
I think that was original. I think Sucker Punch was original.
Sorry, I've got a really fun about how we're going to get to that. Don't worry. And I was like, Zack Snyder going back to zombie route. I'm here for it. Big Dave in the lead. Love Bautista, favorite wrestler growing up. One of them. All here for it. Loving him as actor. And I saw the first trailer. I was a bit like, the second trailer I really enjoyed. And I was like, okay, this looks like it's going to be a bit different. I mean, we've had quick zombies before, but sort of heading into it, my thoughts on Snyder. And this was like, I think could be a really interesting match. The whole Vegas setting as well. So I was quite optimistic. I kind of right to this morning. I'm not going to lie, I was a bit gutted because I do wish I'd seen this at a cinema. It would have been long, but I know in America this has been released. Obviously over here it hasn't, which is a bit of a shame. I think this would have definitely benefited from the cinema experience, but at the same time, as you guys both said, it was 2.5 hours long. I did not know that. I don't know why I didn't know that. Normally I know the length of films, and I slapped on Netflix. It was like, it's like minus 238 on the right hand side, and I was like, oh my word. And I was like, I'm glad I put this on at 6 o'clock with my dinner already made. But God, yeah, that's just my brief initial thoughts getting into it. I don't even know what should we do. Should we talk about the plot? I mean, not that there is a normal plot to zombie films.
Exactly, yeah. So this, again, according to IMDb, following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, a group of mercenaries take the ultimate gamble, venturing into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. As a concept, I fucking love this. I think this is a really, really fun concept. Sorry, we just had a comment from Lucas as well. Hi, guys. I literally just finished watching this, so good timing on the review. Do comment your opinions as well on the film as we go through and talk about this thing. As a concept, I love it. And I was doing a little bit of reading, and apparently... according to this, Zack Snyder had this concept since like 2007, so that would have been pretty much right after he did Dawn of the Dead. I think Dawn of the Dead was 2006, if I'm remembering. No, that was like 300, wasn't it? Probably
04.
Before then. 04, I think, yeah. Going into this film, I'm going to try and avoid spoilers as much as possible. I loved the opening of this film, and to me, like, my overall opinions on this film is that I didn't inherently like it, and my problems with it is that I don't really... It feels like it's trying to be loads of different things. The opening of the film doesn't feel like the film by the end of it, or even by the midpoint of it. It starts off, and look at this poster. I'm going to bring this poster up again, just like as a separate thing. This is the movie I was expecting. That is not the movie that I got. From the marketing and everything, from the bright neon colors, even the colors of the credits in the actual film are bright, pink and blue neon and everything like that. The opening, you've got some great soundtrack in there. You've got covers. You've got Elvis Presley, Suspicious Minds. You've got covers of Elvis Presley, Viva Las Vegas, in this wonderful sort of like music video like montage, which Zack Snyder always loves to do in pretty much all of his films. Loved all that stuff, and it seemed like we were going to get this very sort of high octane, frenetic, Zombieland kind of type film, tongue-in-cheek, bit comedic, with some really good zombie kills in there and action. And I was totally on board with that. And then as we started getting into the film more, and we'll talk about the blur in there, this is one of the most drab, grey, brown, washed out films I think I've ever seen. And it just becomes a run-of-the-mill. It tries to go emotional in loads of scenes and be like this really hard-hitting, emotionally impactful, cathartic zombie film. And I'm like, there's a time and a place for those kind of zombie films. And if I'd have known I was getting in for a zombie film like that, fair enough, it would have been run of the mill. But this looks so unique. Again, going back to this background and the posters, I wanted this film. I wanted it to be set in Vegas. I wanted slot machines, casino stuff, really creative kills from that. And this sort of like ragtag group of all these sort of like disparate people going into the middle of Vegas, into the quarantine zone. And you don't really get that. It's just played very straight for the most part. After you get past the first couple of scenes, it's just kind of mundane and a bit dull and very, very long at 2.5 hours. We both agreed, though, by the end of it, as the action ramps up, the last hour or so, the last 45 minutes does fly by relatively quickly, but there's just a lot of slow parts, and especially the characters as well. I was expecting sort of like, again, the poster, like a very small ensemble cast. I swear there were way more characters in this. It seemed like every 5 or 10 minutes, they were introducing a new person, a new allegiance, a new rivalry. And I was kind of getting lost with it. And I just didn't really care about any of the core cast or their motivations or their personality types, really. And I think if they'd have stripped the cast down maybe to like, as it is on the poster, like 4 or 5 of them, I think you would have got to know them and their sort of like quirks and personalities a little bit more. I don't know. As it stands, it's just kind of a bit of a mess of a film, really.
Yeah, no, I'm in this really weird trance with it because, you know, I'm fine with long films. And it can put me off depending on the time or what I'm doing or whatnot. You know, I'm going to do the ironing, I'll get an hour and a half comedy on and stuff like that. And when this one came, I was like, okay, 2.5 hours. As you said, what an incredible opening scene. Comment by Lucas as well. That opening scene, one of the best openings for a zombie film he's ever seen. Mm-hmm. I've not seen enough to warrant that, but I loved the opening. I always loved the Zack Snyder opening credit scenes, even liked it in Justice League. You always know you're going to get something special with those, and he delivered on that again. And fair play, he used most of the trailer shots for that scene as well.
Yeah.
And then I was in a lull for the next sort of 45 minutes to an hour. I was like, hold on. I was like, not that I don't need action, but they tried to really build up this ensemble piece. And look above us on this banner right now. Which character name, not actor, which character name do you know? I know none of them.
Yes.
I don't even know Bautista's. And, you know, I know that ensemble films can be hard, but so many of them, Expendables even a polite term, you only needed really about 3 or 4 of them. It felt like they wanted to add in people for the double crossing, for the cliches, for the kills and that kind of thing. But I thought it was a very, very bloated cast. And I think that's the biggest problem for me with the entire film is that because of how many cast members there are, they then have to sacrifice even more time setting them up in the opening hour, I would say. And then it really gets into gear at the hour and a half mark with the gooey alien. Those of you know what that means will know what that means. And I think that's where it lost me a bit. And it clawed it back. And then I'm just sat here wondering, saying, it's 2.5 hours long. I absolutely love that last hour. But that middle section, and I'm like, the middle section did help that last hour, you know, learning more about the weird, smart zombie things and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm sat saying, I want to say I disliked it because of that. And I don't because I enjoy the film, but I'm in this weird state where I'm saying, you know, it needed to be shorter. And I think it echoes back to that point that there's a good film in there. There is a good film in there. But I think we unfortunately got the good bloated a bit and we lost some of the really impactful moments. And, you know, some of the stuff with Bautista, we get the moment he had to sort of kill his wife at the opening scene, which was heartbreaking and it was done well. And that set up a story with his daughter. And they revisit that, in the middle of the film for 2 minutes and at the end for 2 minutes. And that you could have easily had this with a group of 4 or 5 people going into the zombie world. Not, is it like 9 or 10 of them, however many, and you get new faces and weird side missions. It feels like a sort of video game. And it's like, we evacuate base. It's like optional, press B, go on side mission to save missing person. It felt like that. And yeah, I'm in a very weird state of mind. But I know I've kind of waffled and spoke about a lot of the things with the film doing this, but I think that is the biggest problem, the casts. And, you know, Bautista once again showing that he is a phenomenal action star. And I know that he's trying to not necessarily ditch the action, he wants to take on acting roles. And that's a big thing for him. He's, as we found out this week, he declined Fast and Furious, which broke my heart. But I respect him for it because it's the ultimate go-to. John Cena's done it. The Rock's done it. Other wrestler types have done it and will do it in the future. But I don't think we had. I don't want to say we didn't have enough of him. Like, you'd forget about him. He's the lead character, and you'd get someone side person to come in for 10 minutes. And I really think you could have just done Bautista, his daughter, the guy that was going to break into the vault, and the YouTuber, because I quite liked him because it was ridiculous, and that's the kind of ridiculous I enjoy. Because we know in modern day, this is a side rant now. In 2021, some dickhead's going to go to a zombie apocalypse and take selfies and turn it into a monetized channel, and I loved that. And I thought, you know what, fair play. I absolutely adored that, and I ended up liking that character. I didn't think I would, but I really liked him. But I just felt half of the cast were irrelevant.
Yeah, and there's a scene that kind of underlines that point as well. I think it's a scene where they're all walking in, and I think the pilot character, who was actually CGI'd in separately, I think originally, this pilot character, Chris D'Elia, who was his stand-up comic. I've seen like some of his like live streams and stuff before that my mates linked me to. Apparently, you know, recent sexual misconduct charges and everything that were like allegedly, you know, aimed against him. They've just sort of like edited in someone else completely, and honestly it's seamless. I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told me, George, beforehand. I wouldn't have had the foggiest. But there's a line that her character says where she says, so I'm like, he's the main guy, right, that we need, because he's going to crack into the safe, and I guess that makes me the second most important because I'm the one who needs to fly us out of there. And then everyone else is just kind of like joint third, fourth, or fifth, because they're literally just there to be soldiers, just guns essentially. And that did kind of help underline it. Like, most of this cast is completely unimportant, and you can just call this cast to, and maybe you'll have like a kind of Ocean's 11 kind of vibe where everyone has their own role to play in this heist. And you mentioned like Rogue One as well, how you thought this would have worked better as maybe like a TV show. We talk about Rogue One now, where in the current market to Disney, that would probably be a Disney Plus TV show and would probably work a lot better for it. You get to know all the characters a lot more and their backstories and see them all come together. And it is kind of a very similar ending, I would say, to Rogue One in many ways as well. Without giving too much away, I probably just gave away the whole thing right there. But it's frustrating because you have all of the qualities there. And I love the premise. I genuinely love the premise. And I think it could be a very, very entertaining zombie romp, essentially, which is what I was hoping it would be. And it kind of isn't what we got at all. It's really frustrating. Lucas, however, you know, he's mentioning there, he loved the film for what it was. He said he had a blast with the film. He only really likes 300 and Man of Steel, but this is his best film by far, and he loved it. And then he clarifies, when I say I loved it for what it was. I don't like scoring films, but if I had to give it a B, B plus, something like that. I think it's fine. I do think it's very overly long. I think it's bloated. One thing that I did like, though, if we're going to talk about the zombies themselves in the film, when I saw the title of the film, Army of the Dead, I thought, let's just reach into the random assortment hat. Which word can we stick in front of the dead this time? Oh, Army of the Dead, that's the one. But it actually makes so much sense to the film. And it's not just sort of like a horde of mindless zombies. You get sort of like a hierarchy there and different factions of them. And as the zombie genre goes, I haven't really seen anything like that before. Maybe there are some other zombie things out there. I think it probably out there. There's like alpha zombies and sort of like different degrees of them. But I thought that was really creative and absolute fair play as well. Like the makeup and everything. These aren't CGI. This isn't like a I Am Legend situation or a World War Z. These are people in makeup and they look gross and they bring the physicality into it as well. I really liked that kind of stuff. It was, if you get bitten by an alpha, you become an alpha. There are loads of other zombies in there. You've got kind of like the grunts, like the regular sort of soldiers that go out there and fight. You've got zombie tigers in there. So that was quite a neat spin. I've never really seen that in a zombie film that I can think of before. Oh, hang on. Have we lost George? He's back.
There you go. Sorry, it cut me off. I'm back. Sorry, I missed.
I was just saying that I really liked the hierarchy of the zombies. I haven't really seen that before in a zombie film.
Yeah, I think this was the big thing for me. When I said heading into it looked different, and they kept saying smart zombies, quick zombies, and we've seen quick zombies, but not smart zombies. This guy we found is called Zeus, the main one. Spoiler alert: he wears a metal war hat and a cape, and it is one of the baddest looking zombies. Baddest as in like badass, not bad. It was one of the best zombie things I think I've ever seen. Because like, oh yeah, like he knows that if they go for the brains, they'll get him. And I was like, the concept of a smart zombie, maybe it's been done, and I'm oblivious to it. But I just thought it made for an interesting dynamic that you had this sort of, I'm not even tactician, but they knew what they were doing. And he felt very human in that mannerism that you kind of had a performance out of him. You can't really say that for many zombie films. Bar the weird CGI lead in I Am Legend. There's not really a zombie with any sort of character until today, I thought. that's what I found really interesting, was that it looked like Snyder was trying new things. It was an original story, and I'm really intrigued by what their plan is, and as the story develops, which I think definitely worth doing spoilers now because I'm going to drop the biggest thing. We had this humongous reveal that there was a pregnant zombie, which was terrifying as a concept, but I would say quite genius. And I don't know where I'm going on a tangent, so try and follow me. But Zack Snyder has not an obsession with religion, but a lot of his films very much go for a religious not aesthetic. You know how Superman is very much looked upon as the sort of savior.
Yeah, imagery. There's a lot of Jesus imagery going on in his films.
That's the one. Yeah, and I don't know what it is about him, because it never feels like I don't think he's a religious man or whatnot, but it's something he tries to convey in his films. Not a chosen one type thing, but something along those lines. And I think it epitomized its day when he had that shot of the zombie walking through with his decapitated missus. And it was kind of like, oh my God, it's like, like a funeral type thing. And I was like, oh no, is he just going to eat it? And then there's like a little gooey alien baby. And I swear it was like glowing blue at some point.
Yeah.
That might have been me, and I was kind of there. Like, I was sort of taken right, saying, I've never seen this. And you know what? That's given we know the zombie's going to get them, obviously. But that, rather than them be mindless creatures, because in that time that was filler, they were explaining, these zombies are smart. We'll offer them a sacrifice. And in return, they'll let us, go to our places if we stay indoors. And I didn't mind something like that because it had a payoff. But then it was part of that time where, we spent 10 minutes with the rapist pedo guy that we knew was going to be the first one to get killed. And it just makes you wonder that I liked that concept of something new and that zombie imagery stuff. And I think when you get to the final hour, it's going to go batshit crazy, because we know that Snyder can direct action. But we also know that we've now seen the Zeus. I want to call him the Alpha. But we know that the Zeus has had his missus and his unborn baby killed. And I just thought that you knew even quicker that that's going to make it more interesting for the last hour, because it's him pining for revenge. I don't know if that was just me, but that stuff was by far some of the most interesting. So random, but I don't know why I loved it so much. It's not something I probably would have liked heading into it.
Yeah, no, I really like the zombie thing because, obviously you probably still root for the humans. Like, obviously, you're probably not going to root for the zombies. Maybe some people do, but it added a shred of character to a zombie, essentially, and you knew why he was fighting. You knew why he wanted to wage a war against them, essentially, and send all of his troops out. It added like a little bit of tension to the final fight between Bautista and him on the helicopter at the end. I guess it was like a sense of pathos, and you even see a zombie mourn at one point and, mourn the loss of a lover and, like the unborn child and everything. So I thought that was interesting. I liked the origin as well at the beginning, or the lack of one, really. It's just that the US government have, in their possession all of these things. I actually loved the interplay between the two drivers at the beginning in this armored van where they're saying, oh, what do you think's back there? Like, is it the staff of Ra or something? Is it the alien from Area 51 or whatever? And they're sort of like throwing back ideas, and it's just a zombie, and apparently they're going to do a prequel or something and go into the history of it all. I don't need it. I just love the mystery to the fact that the US government somehow has a zombie, whether they created it themselves, whether they discovered it or whatever. I really, really love that origin story, and I love the fact that the zombies have like a kingdom as well. Like, they have made Las Vegas their world, essentially their kingdom. And just having a look here. Carl's brought up a comment. I was actually going to mention this as well. I thought this was really cool. The lady with the red bandana gives me James Cameron alien vibes. Absolutely. Vasquez, I think her name is in Aliens. Instantly reminded of her. And then did like the pissed off helicopter pilot. Thought she was funny. Yeah, she was quite socky. See, there's glimmers there. There's glimmers of like personality there. You've got the German code breaker as well, or the guy who's going to get into the safe at the end. And he says, like, I need absolute quiet. And he's almost like conducting an orchestra as he's like getting into this thing. And there's sort of like a nice interplay between him and one of the other characters who I can't for the life of me remember the name. The guy who gets sequel baited at the end of the film, I believe.
Yeah.
Because it does sequel bait.
Story.
Yeah.
They hint there's like a backstory between them, and you don't really get it. I'm assuming all of these people that went in previously lived in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the vibe you have. They're all going back in. That's where they came from. That's where they were, with their homes, and to get out. I love that whole dynamic with the crates squashing everyone and all that sort of crazy stuff. But I want to mention the helicopter pilot because I saw an amazing quote today. I don't always hype at Bautista. I do it a lot. And I'm very excited he's in Knives Out too. But because this is obviously, I can't pronounce the surname, is it Tig Notaro? Obviously, she filmed all of the scenes in post production with CJ, and there's a great interview by Bautista when they were kind of asking him about sort of what was it like not being on set with her, and he says he was really bothered the first time I watched the film. I've got the quote up here. It bothers me that I didn't get to know her. I felt like I should have known her. I wanted to hug her and tell how amazing she was. I got to meet all my co-stars, yet I couldn't meet her. I haven't met her yet. When I watch the film, it feels like I'm with her the entire time. And I think, I'm not obviously going to sit here and say reshoot West Side Story because there's a pedo in that too, but I will also have full respect for Snyder that after filming, I think, was it 2019 filming happened for this? Yeah. It was quite a while ago. It was way before the Snyder Cut was obviously formally put into green light, I guess we could say. And, when all the allegations came about Chris D'Elia and harassment, all of it, obviously it was he admitted it on the spot. Mm-hmm. Fair play to Snyder for not, some directors would try and sneak him in and just be like, we're going to take him off the press tour or not put him in the trailer. But to replace him with somebody, which I would say was probably one of the better characters in the film, one of the few characters which I enjoyed on screen. Mm-hmm. Where when she has things like she's holding her own, like there's a place for in this. And you don't get that with a lot of this. Is it the Locksmith was great. I loved the whole sort of classical music stuff that was happening. Yeah. The whole, some of the funny bits, sending the zombie down to test all the booby traps, I loved as well. Mm-hmm. And there's some really good stuff, but there's just so much sort of clutter with it. And I feel like I'm being too harsh now. I do enjoy this film, but it was, I think, because it's so middle of the road for me, not final thought, but it's so middle of the road. And it could have been so much more. And I think that's my problem, was that there was so much potential. And we got to see a lot of that potential. But it was just like there was that one sort of... We just need this sort of nihilistic editor to come in and just like put his foot down and say no. But the problem is, and I'm going to make a really wild George Lucas comparison, so bear with me. George Lucas's obsession with redoing stuff, sequel editions, and all of this kind of thing came from the fact that studio interference destroyed his first two releases. American Graffiti was nominated for Best Film, and I think he was on it for Best Director or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the studios were trying to butcher it before it came out. THX 113, I've still never seen it. He always said that was massacred by the studio, and because he had those experiences, when he finally had the power to sit back and say, this is my film, he very much enjoyed it. And I love a lot of what he has changed, and obviously some stuff not so much. And I wonder with Snyder if we're getting to that part too now where, because of Warner Brothers, we know that Netflix is going to give a green light and let the director make their film. That's one thing Netflix have always done, and I respect. They give the creators their creative influence. But sometimes, you need that editor. You need someone to say, listen, any chance of, does this elongated scene really need to be here still? And you can shave 10 minutes off in no time, but I don't want to harp on it for too much there. But that was the direction side of it. What I do want to jump onto, unless you've got something to add on that little bit, I want to talk about the soundtrack, which was wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about it, what you just talked about there, is that, for better or worse, I'm always interested to see what Zack Snyder does next. Even after this film now, I'm thinking, what's he going to take on next? Is it going to be a sequel to this? Is he going to go back into like a comic book adaptation? Is he going to do something completely original, a new genre that he's never done before? I am always interested to see what the guy does. And, I do like a lot of his early work as well. I think, that's that could be a discussion for another time about how you basically have to work in orchestra, the director's vision and the studio. Neither one can sort of overpower the other. I think it's the best films are always usually the ones where there's a compromise between the two, but where one doesn't completely interfere in the other person's affairs. But and if he comes out of, especially after Justice League and the absolute clusterfuck that film was and the production of that film was, I bet he was just so glad to be just given the keys to the kingdom for this thing and just be like, make whatever the hell you want to make. I guess that's quite a freeing experience for a director. But go into the soundtrack. And here's the thing, like the soundtrack to this film is from the film that I wish the film had have been, if that makes any sense. As I mentioned, there's like a bunch of Elvis Presley songs in there or covers of Elvis Presley songs. Even ends on Suspicious Minds. I think it begins with Suspicious Minds, actually. So there's a nice little bookend to the music there. I thought the music was tremendous, and that's kind of like a Zack Snyder thing as well. Maybe to a less degree, the Snyder Cut, because there was some questionable music in there. But the guy comes from a music video background, and those sequences where the song does play out in full, and you just have the imagery alongside it, you do get aspects of that in this film as well. As we mentioned, the opening titles. So yeah, the guy's got a tremendous taste in music. He knows how to integrate it well. For me, it was just like a tonal thing. It goes back to sort of like my overall opinions on the film is that when it started off and we had all of this like popular music injected into it and like Elvis Presley, I wanted that energy from the film. And then by the end of the film, it's kind of like I don't know how to feel. I want to laugh at it. I want it to be sort of like this Zombieland neon-filled experience, this extravaganza, this really exciting, funny film. And then there's like emotionally rendering scenes at the end with Dave Bautista and his daughter, and it's like, oh, now this feels like it's coming from a film like 28 Days Later or The Road or something like a post-apocalyptic film that's meant to be taken seriously. So it did feel kind of mismatched in that way. And then when it kicks back in with Elvis Presley, I was like, oh yeah, I remember how this film started now, and sort of the tone I wish it had had.
Yeah, no, I feel it. I think what would have been the perfect ending, 'cause you don't want to leave it on the emotional death of Bautista. It wasn't that emotional, but in story emotion, I guess you could say. And all coming of age, fixing with his daughter. We knew he'd probably go, it always happens in these kind of films. But when the guy survived, I thought, I love this. I'm not going to sit here and do a sort of, CinemaSins crap. Well, I did think, like, wouldn't they all survive if they're in an underground vault? In a vault? I'm not going to get into that kind of nonsense because I don't like stuff like that. But when it popped up that one of them was like, I really like that. One of them got away scot-free with all the money. And the moment the scene started getting elongated, I was like, he's going to be a zombie, isn't he? And then I was like, yes, of course he's a zombie, of course. And that kind of killed it for me. I just love that end on the upbeat that one of them made out with the money alive. I know that's really random. But
I was wondering why he wasn't immediately dying of radiation poisoning from being at the epicenter of a nuclear bomb. And I was thinking, well, and then you said, oh, just keep, just wait. And I thought, oh, okay, well, he's a zombie. Maybe they have some kind of, because he's infected with that. Other things aren't going to affect him because he's turning. It kind of reminded me of the ending of, do you remember the post-credit scene? I think it was mid-credit scene, actually, of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where the guy who's got the infection gets on the plane and then it transmits all over the world. I guess that's what we're going to get. It does set up a sequel, whether we get one or not. I kind of wish that scene hadn't been there. And actually, Lucas mentions that as well. He wishes they hadn't a sequel baited at the end. Yeah. Clearly he's keeping keeping this film in the back pocket. If he's going to do a sequel, prequel, whatever it's going to be, we are going to see some kind of continuation to this. If you go on to, I don't know if this is officially confirmed or not. If you go on to Zack Snyder on Wikipedia, go to his filmography, there is a to be announced film called Army of Thieves. So I'm guessing that's going to be the sequel to this one.
Maybe it will be about the guys in the cell that didn't make it past the first gate thing. I don't know. That was a weird speech. I loved it. Yeah. It was random. It was silly, and it worked. And it's those kind of things. Like one minute you've got this nonsense, and then you've got Zombie Zeus mourning his queen, and it's like, huh? Like I loved it. I don't know. There's something strange. That kind of sums up my final thoughts. Maybe I don't know if I've jumped ahead, but it's like there could have been a great film. I think it's an all right film. It's very watchable. I think this is definitely, I know it's quite literally Friday night. This is a Friday night film. Go get yourself a takeaway. Go do something like that. Put this film on. It's 2.5 hours, so get some drinks as well. And I don't think it's one that sort of is a must see. However, what it will add to the statement is that we're on the verge of cinemas opening. They are opening actually. Sorry, ignore me. We're getting new releases in a couple of weeks, is what I meant to say. And I think this has given us a taste of what it's like to get those big blockbusters. I'd say this is probably the biggest. I know we had Wonder Woman, but this feels like the biggest blockbuster since Tenet. I don't know what it is about. I don't know if it's the colors, the trailers, the kind of disappointment. I don't really know what it is, but this is very much a blockbuster season type film, and it's a shame we're watching him on Netflix. Final thoughts, something we haven't spoken about.
I was going to mention, yeah.
I'm never let this man do director of photography again, because the 35mm cameras, whatever it was, to pull focus, to have the I think I sent a photo to Chris. The nose was fully focused and in 4K, and his hair and cheeks were blurry. That cinematography is not on. It's distracting. Once someone points out for me, it was not watchable, but it was impossible not to see it. So I had to then tell Chris. And I think I've ruined it for you as well. I don't think it would have been that bad an issue if I hadn't known. But I can't, that blur stuff. It's like, I sent it to me out. It's like when you're at work and you're on a Zoom call and like your manager tells everyone to like blur their backgrounds for professionalism. And I'm kind of there like, no, because I like my background. Whereas like that's what I needed to add that because that was so bizarre. I'm surprised it took us this long to mention it. Sorry to bring up the final thoughts.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad Carl reminded us because we would have totally just stormed on ahead, and we absolutely need to talk about it. I took a picture of the screen and I was watching this film. Now I know I'm on a live stream right now, so it's probably going to look blurry anyway. But believe me, that is an actual shot from the film, right there, and that's just one shot. There are so many shots like that in the film. Zack Snyder experimenting with the pull focuses, I guess, or the depth of field, whatever it is, whatever the technical term is. It didn't look good. It was a very, very, very ugly film, and this was a kind of film where you needed it to be visual, you needed it to be striking, and it just wasn't. It was a lot of sort of mid shots. That's kind of a Zack Snyder thing as well, especially in his DC films. There are barely any establishing shots of locations. It will just cut to a location. Everyone's in mid shot. You don't know where anyone's situated really. And it's kind of the same with this one as well. It's not a pleasant film to look at, in all honesty. And I know there's like a zombie film. There's gross zombies on screen. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, just in terms of a cinematography standpoint, it is not good. And I actually thought that Zack Snyder did a lot of his own cinematography in, a lot of his previous films. But before we went live, we checked through a bunch of his films. He's had a few cinematographers over the time, but yeah, I think this is the first one that he's done it for, and I really hope he doesn't do it again. It's not a good look for the film. Final thoughts for me. I'm going to kind of echo what you said as well. It was a surreal experience going on Netflix this morning and seeing, the header on there with the thumbnail like, oh my God, a new movie. So even though I didn't particularly care for this film, there are aspects of it that I liked, and I kind of wish it had been focused on more, or they'd have gone in a different direction. But it is like, oh, so that's what watching a new movie feels like. I am still kind of in that stage at the moment. I think we're going to be in that stage for a while, at least for another few months. And then when things start to settle, we'll be like, oh, yeah, that film was bad. I wish I hadn't watched that. But it was an experience. It was a 2.5 hour long experience. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. I agree with everything that, people have said. It does feel bloated. I don't really care about the characters in there. There are some cool zombie kills in there. I'm not going to lie. The action is covered very well. The soundtrack's fantastic, and there are glimmers where you can see the potential that this film had. And I think that's kind of the saddest thing about this film, is that I love the premise, and I think that all the ingredients are there for a fantastic, fun zombie heist film. Didn't even talk about one of the actors in there because he's barely in the film. He's probably one of my favorite East Asian actors, Hiroyuki Sanada. Yeah. Absolutely wasted in this film. We were talking about this too before we went live. He is the guy who sort of gives the mission briefing. There's no resolution with him, doesn't come back to him, and he has such a presence. He's a tremendous actor, absolute wasted. It's a very frustrating film. It's a frustrating film. I didn't hate this film, and I certainly didn't love this film. I'm just kind of in the middle. I think if you're a zombie fan, if you like zombie films, then absolutely watch this. It's got some great kills in there. The hierarchy of the zombies is very interesting. I think that's something fresh that's been brought to the table in this genre that, for me, has stagnated for quite a long time. There's good stuff in there, just doesn't all come together for me. So maybe that can be refined with sequels. As it stands, I don't really want a sequel to this film. And now he's gone back to do a zombie film. He's kind of touched base and gone back to his roots. I would like to see him take on something brand new, with his usual visual style. Just to hopefully make a film that's under 2.5 hours. Not every Zack Snyder film needs to be over 2.5 hours, or God forbid, 4 hours long. That's hopefully he never goes longer than the Zack Snyder cut, because that would just be, oh God, unimaginable. Lucas says, in Justice League, he experienced too much with slow-mo. In this, he experienced too much with the blur. Zack, just let a cinematographer do the part for you, please. Yeah, I agree with that. Cole does too. I think we've pretty much said everything we can on this film. So I'll open it up to everyone else. Please let us know your thoughts on Army of the Dead. Lucas and Carl have been all the way throughout the stream. If you've just discovered this now, if you've been watching along and have been very quiet in the comments, now's your chance to get us some comments in. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And yeah, as you mentioned earlier, we're actually getting some new films coming out now. So we will have some new films, including a very exciting horror film that we're getting early screening for next week. We'll have more information on that towards the time. So be sure to follow us on our social medias for more information on that as we can hand it out. That's Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter at Cinema_Savvy. We're on Letterboxd, where we'll now have this movie ticked off on there. Just find us on there on Cinema Savvy. And of course, we've got our TeePublic link for some merch. We have many t-shirts on there now with some relatively brand new designs on there too. Go and check those out. And talk about that too. We will be back same time, same day, Tuesday, the 25th of May. We will have on Her Majesty's Secret Service at 8 p.m. That will be pre-recorded, but we're very much loving that franchise that we're going through at the moment. So hopefully some of you can join us there.
Definitely. I want to add to that. The Bond reception, they've been pushing up. We're getting great comments. Keep them coming, because if you clocked on that thumbnail, we've got our first collaboration for the Bond stuff, which I'm very, very excited to talk about. We have Tom Butler coming on from the James Bond A to Z podcast. Thoroughly recommend that podcast for you Bond fans. All about behind the scenes and production stuff, not necessarily just the films themselves. So have a check of that. We're delighted to get someone on for the Bond stuff. It's something we're looking forward to. And I kind of want to add in, we might as well say what we're going to be talking about, because the embargo is lifted. Quiet Place Part 2. We'll be watching that on Tuesday at a screener, which is why Bond's pre-recorded. We'll have a review up on Wednesday for that one. And some of you may be wondering, hold on, where's their Quiet Place 1 review? Unfortunately, we have another film to watch, so that one's going to be up this Monday. So Monday, Quiet Place, Tuesday, Bond, Wednesday, Quiet Place, Thursday, rest. That's the way we want it to be. We've been very blessed by not having any streaming releases next week. And as Lucas has said in the comments, we too were very excited. Fast 9's release date was brought forwards. We are just over a month away now. It might be 4 or 5 weeks. I don't know, but this is the place to be. Again, thank you everyone for getting us across 2,000 subscribers. It does mean a lot to us, and we've got plenty more goals coming. We've got lots more video on the way. Some videos, some films we don't even know that are going to be made. We might end up covering. So, but stick around for that. As we said, get us on the social medias. Best ways to find out about our videos, and if you have any issues as well, it's always the place to be. And yeah, I think that wraps up the extended outro for tonight. I want to thank everyone for watching. Of course, comment your thoughts. We'll reply to them. And I'm going to end it. Dave Bautista. He didn't Bautista bomb someone, but he did do a spine buster. So I'm going to leave it on that. That's one for the wrestling fans. Thanks for watching.